This is episode 2 of Survivor China. Last time, we had an extended episode showcasing the first 2 rounds of the game. There were 2 tribes, Feng and Shu. The Phoenix versus the Snake. With both tribes needing to send 2 members to exile for a chance at an immunity challenge advantage, Vindrith and Garth volunteered from Shu, and David and Daniela volunteered from Feng. Vindrith and Garth won, though in Vindrith's eyes, he did all of the work. After an embarrassing loss at the immunity challenge, Shu had to prepare for tribal council. Vindrith threw Garth under the bus, but Alec had other plans, setting his sights on Vindrith. At tribal council, Ebony tried saving Vindrith to prevent Alec from getting his way, but in the end, the vote was 9-2 and Vindrith was sent packing first. In the second round, Shu managed to win immunity, sending Feng to their first tribal council. The vote seemed simple at first with Kevin as the main target and Hannah as the split option. Meanwhile, Hannah had other plans to get Fabian out. As she tried to get the numbers, Daniela also had her own plan, and that was to get rid of Preston due to his closeness to one of her loose allies in Fabian. At tribal council, a blindside smashed the tribe into pieces as Preston was voted out with 5 votes against Hannah, Fabian, and Kevin, who received 2 votes each. With Feng now confused by the latest result, will new lines be drawn? We'll find out today. It's currently night 4 in the game, and Feng returns to camp from a messy tribal council. Roland then asks the group if anyone wants to admit they voted for Preston, and Maria is the first to admit it. David and Daniela then also admit it, and so do Anna and Kevin right after. Hannah momentarily drops her jaw, and in confessional, Hannah admits she's pretty pissed off that nobody went through with the Fabian blindside. Not only does she look like an idiot, but she's probably an easy vote going forward for this tribe. Luckily, last tribal council seems to have been a massive blindside for some of the stronger boys, so hopefully she can use that to her advantage to survive this tribe. Back at camp, Fabian pulls Adam and Roland aside by the tents, and Daniela tries to join in, only for Fabian to tell her to back away. Daniela apologizes to the 3 of them, but Fabian cuts in and tells her goodbye. He doesn't want to deal with a flipper. Daniela then walks away and goes over to Maria and Anna, telling them that she's not going to even attempt talking to Fabian. In confessional, Daniela feels like she made the right choice at tribal council. She pulled off a great move against Preston, which now has Fabian pressed. She felt bad at first, but since he doesn't want to hear her out, she doesn't feel that bad anymore. In another confessional, Fabian says that he doesn't need to talk with Daniela anymore. She made her bed in this game. If he can publicly distance himself from her, that'll show some of the people here that Daniela isn't the innocent ICU nurse they all think she is. Instead, she's the wicked witch of the West who manipulates people into working with her, just to blindside them when she doesn't need them anymore. Back outside, Fabian tells Adam and Roland that they need to get Daniela out. Adam sighs and tells Fabian that they can't make it so obvious that they distrust her. If she wants to come back with them, they should make her think that. In confessional, Adam admits that both Fabian and Daniela are terrible allies. Daniela flipped, which is why she's terrible, and Fabian is also terrible because he can't keep his mouth shut. This could get their alliance in even more trouble if they aren't careful with how they interact with the vital votes on this tribe. It's now day 5, and the sun has now risen. Daniela, David, and Maria stand by the well together, and Maria asks the 2 how they feel after last night. David says he feels like crap because they blindsided half the tribe, but that's part of the game. He doesn't have any regrets. Daniela smiles and says she knows they made the right move for their games. This move solidifies their spot in the game. All they need to do is pull in Shelby or Hannah to have the numbers against the boys. In confessional, Maria says she feels pretty solid at the moment. Daniela is her number 1, and David is her number 2. The 3 of them make a pretty good alliance together. At the moment, Fabian, Adam, and Roland seem to be the enemy. They are pissed off after last night, especially Fabian. It doesn't matter though, as long as those three don't have the numbers. Kevin later finds the three at the well, joining in with a smile. He thanks them for saving his life yesterday. Daniela says no problem, telling him that he's now part of a majority. Kevin says he feels grateful, and in confessional, Kevin admits he never saw this flip coming. He thought these people were lying to him all along. He fully expected to go home. Now that he's still here, he's 100% going to remain loyal to Daniela. She's the only person who scooped him into her little group, and he really appreciates that of her. Daniela then tells the group that she doesn't have any specific targets in mind. She's cool with any of the people on the outs going. David agrees and says that if challenges become a problem, they might have to go for Shelby or Hannah instead of the three guys because it's best not to go to repeat tribal councils. Meanwhile at camp, Adam sits with Roland, Shelby, and Anna. He then asks them how they all slept last night, and Anna says she slept well this time around. The winds weren't so harsh. Shelby then turns to Anna, asking her to leak what happened yesterday with the vote plan, and then she laughs. Anna awkwardly smiles and says she just went with the plan she heard. Roland then tells her that they thought the plan was a split between Hannah and Kevin, but Anna says she just didn't trust Preston that much. In confessional, Adam feels like there's not much budging from these 5 people who voted Preston. In fact, Anna is probably the only person they could even try to budge at this point. But it's pretty difficult to get much out of her. So, he has to move on to someone else. Adam later finds Hannah and quickly pulls her aside. Hannah asks what's up, and Adam tells her that they have to talk about the current tribe lines. He feels like the 5 who voted Preston are going to stick together. The other 5 who didn't vote Preston need to now protest against the others. Hannah then states that it would lead to a tie in that case. It would be better if they tried pulling in a 6th. Adam says he can only really see Anna flipping, but she's not budging. Hannah then tells him to try getting David to flip. He'd probably be keen to vote out Kevin. Adam shrugs and says it could be worth a try. In confessional, Hannah feels like she's in an interesting position now. Adam wants to stay 5 strong with the 2 of them, Roland, Fabian, and Shelby. They would need to pull in a 6th number, so maybe that could be David since he's all about tribe strength. If they can get rid of Kevin next, they gain the majority, even if David decides to flip back to the other side. Adam then tells Hannah that this could be a very deadly duo between the 2 of them, and Hannah giggles and agrees. She promises not to leak any of this stuff with the opposite side. Adam is cool with this and they split off. On the Shu tribe, many people eat breakfast, while Annalise looks around for a hidden immunity idol. In confessional, Annalise admits that she feels a bit worried on this tribe. She feels like she's within the bottom 3 along with Ebony and Rachel. The 3 of them need to pull in some numbers to work with them. If that doesn't work, she'd rather rely on an idol if she can find one. Annalise continues searching around, checking many bushes and trees, and eventually throughout the entire well. Betty and Sarah later stumble into her searching the well, and Betty asks why she looks so suspicious. Annalise laughs and says she was just checking if there wasn't some secret thing hidden in the well. But there isn't. Betty and Sarah laugh, but in confessional, Betty rolls her eyes and laughs to herself. Clearly, Annalise is a gamer if she's desperately looking for idols. She kind of ticks her off. Maybe it's the awful clothes she constantly wears. Or maybe it's just her attitude. There's something about Annalise that bothers her. If it were her decision, she'd send home Annalise next. Annalise then asks Sarah and Betty how the rest of the tribe is doing right now, and Sarah says they are all eating breakfast. They left some food for her if she wants. Annalise nods and says she'll go get some food for herself before someone eats it. Once she leaves, Betty and Sarah laugh together, and Betty calls Annalise crazy. Sarah then says that it's obvious Annalise is a nervous wreck. It's a shame, though, because she seemed pretty cool on day 1. Betty agrees and says if it was her own decision next tribal, she'd just vote Annalise out. Sarah shrugs and says there's no reason not to. Ebony brings much more to this tribe anyway. Betty smiles and says that it's a possibility they could explore further if they lose immunity. In another part of camp, Ebony chats with Jeannie and Julian, telling them that she knows she's pretty much on the outs right now. She's just trying to fight to survive, so she's approaching them with a potential alliance that they can build. Julian tells Ebony he's open to it because in his opinion, there are way too many cooks running the kitchen right now. Ebony laughs and says it's pretty obvious Alec is the head chef that's trying to manage control of this tribe. In confessional, Ebony says that it's crucial for Julian and Jeannie to flip on Alec. Those two are like two peas in a pod. They rarely separate from each other, so that's two solid numbers that can work with or against you. In this case, it's best to grab them into her voting block to make that 5 solid numbers against Alec. Of course, Rachel and Annalise would be the 4th and 5th numbers. Ebony then tells Julian and Jeannie that it will be very difficult to take down Alec if they don't try now. After she goes, Alec pretty much has enough power to survive until a swap or merge. Jeannie agrees and says she personally wants to switch things up. Ebony thanks them for hearing her out, and she encourages them to approach her if they need anything. She's open-minded as an ally. Ebony then leaves, and Julian looks at Jeannie, asking her what they should do. Jeannie breathes out and tells Julian that he should decide. She's not going to make the decision here. Julian looks out into the distance, and in confessional, Julian feels like it would be a very exciting move to go against the obvious majority. However, Sarah is also part of that, and she's technically in a trio with himself and Jeannie. She's clearly close to Alec, which doesn't really work for himself and Jeannie. Julian then tells Jeannie that the only way they could pull off a blindside is if Alec says they will split the vote between Ebony and Annalise. Then, they can blindside Alec with enough votes. Jeannie says it could work since nobody knows where the true idol sits, and of course, it's in her own hands right now. Julian and Jeannie then hug, and Jeannie says she'll do a quick prayer to the survivor gods to help them make the right move next tribal. She sits on the ground with Julian and they both do a little prayer. As the day goes on, Alec eventually meets up with Steph, Sarah, Garth, and Julian by the well, asking them if he can join in. Garth says of course, since he's a huge part of their tribe. Alec smiles and thanks Garth. Julian then asks everyone if they know what the plan is going forward, in terms of tribal council. Everyone remains quiet for a moment, and then Sarah speaks up and says that it's quite clear Ebony is on the outs, but Annalise seems to be distancing herself from everyone. She's a bit too nervous to be working with their majority crew. In a way, she'd rather vote out Annalise before Ebony. Steph agrees and says that Annalise isn't bringing much to their tribe, unlike Ebony who brings strength in the physical challenges. Julian then asks if they should perhaps split in case Annalise found an idol, and Alex says it sounds like a good idea. They have the numbers to do a split. 4 votes on Ebony, 4 votes on Annalise. In confessional, Julian claps his hand and yells the word trap. He just got confirmation that they will split the vote at their next tribal council. This gives himself and Jeannie the opportunity to flip and work with Ebony. She doesn't have anyone to work with, so she'd definitely be loyal to the two of them. Later on, Ebony, Rachel, and Annalise hang out at camp, and Ebony tells the two that she thinks she got Julian and Jeannie on board to work with them. Annalise is surprised and says this sounds great. Ebony then says that they'll need to hope the other side split their votes, which could be the case since they feel comfortable right now. Rachel then asks who they should target, and Ebony says she would be willing to chop off the snakehead and Alec. He's clearly running the other side after hard defending Garth last tribal. In confessional, Ebony says that her main 2 people right now are Rachel and Annalise. She knows they are loyal to her for sure. Julian and Jeannie can prove their loyalty to her if they go through and vote out Alec at the next tribal they attend. This can lock in a very strong 5 moving forward, and with Alec gone, the other 4 people on the bottom will scramble like chickens with no head. Annalise then celebrates quietly, stating how exciting this is. Rachel then welcomes them to Survivor. This is how it's played. Back on the Feng tribe, Daniela sits with Hannah, asking her if she wants to chat some game. Hannah says sure, so Daniela asks her where she currently sees herself in this tribe. Hannah smiles and says she really isn't sure. She's kind of exploring her options, considering she was the sole vote on Fabian last night. Daniela then offers her an olive branch, telling her that the 2 of them can work together. She doesn't think they have any reason to work against each other. Hannah agrees and says she likes Maria, so they can possibly be a trio if that's cool with her. Daniela smiles and says it would be great working as a trio. In confessional, Hannah says that this chat with Daniela couldn't have gone better. By telling Daniela that she wants to make a trio with Maria, that makes it seem legit that she wants to work with them moving forward. In reality, she would much rather work with Adam and his crew. They don't have a huge alliance unlike Daniela. Daniela then tells Hannah that she can't wait to move forward with her. The 2 of them and Maria can hold a chat later tonight or tomorrow. Hannah says there's no rush, so they can chat tomorrow with Maria. Daniela then splits off, and Hannah smiles to herself. As night slowly approaches, Adam chats with David, asking him where he currently stands on the tribe. David says he really doesn't have anything bad to say about anyone. He's just trying to navigate each day however he can. Adam then says that he's just very nervous about how things will shape up moving forward. He feels like the stronger people are on the bottom, which leaves the weaker tribe mates floating by without any harm. David then asks who he is referring to, and Adam says Kevin is a good example. David scoffs and says he doesn't really like Kevin. He truly doesn't help the tribe in any way. In confessional, David feels a bit torn about Kevin right now. Although he's working in his alliance with Daniela and Maria, he might not be a reliable ally going forward. He's going to remember how he was left out of the tribe the first 2 days, so he might flip to the opposite tribe and work with them. Meanwhile, Adam seems to have more interest in the Feng tribe. He's more willing to stay tribe strong in a swap or merge. David then tells Adam that he's not opposed to vote Kevin out, but that would be difficult to pull off if they don't have the votes to do it. He'd much rather make it a unanimous vote to keep the tribe united. Adam says it could work if they convince Daniela and Maria. David agrees, and in confessional, Adam feels like the plan to flip the vote on Kevin is starting to look possible. What's even more crazy is that if David, Daniela, and Maria vote Kevin next tribal, himself, Roland, Fabian, Hannah, and Shelby can decide if they want to also vote Kevin, or potentially pull off a huge move and take out Daniela. They basically have control over what happens next tribal, as long as David, Daniela, and Maria vote for Kevin. It's day 6, and the 2 tribes arrive at the challenge mats. Justin then welcomes everyone back, confirming that Preston was last voted off from Feng. Justin then takes the immunity statue from Shu, claiming that immunity is back up for grabs, and it'll come with a special reward. For today's challenge, both tribes will pick one person to compete per round. They must balance themselves on a barrel without falling off. Whoever stands the longest will score for their tribe. The same person cannot compete in back-to-back rounds. The first tribe to score 4 times will win immunity, safe from the vote tonight. Losing tribe will go to tribal council and vote the 3rd person out of Survivor China. In addition to immunity, there is reward. The winning tribe will send one of their own to tribal council to spectate. That spectator will watch tribal unfold, and before the vote, they will save one person of their choice. That person will have immunity from getting voted out. With the rules out of the way, it's time for round 1. For Feng, we have Roland, and for Shu, we have Rachel. The round commences, and both guys struggle to balance on their barrel. Roland almost loses his balance, but stays on. Rachel rocks forward and back, trying to keep himself on the barrel. Then, Roland falls off, meaning Shu wins the first point. On to round 2, we have Daniela up for Feng, and Sarah up for Shu. The round begins, and both women step onto their barrel and begin wobbling around. Sarah then quickly falls, meaning Daniela scores for Feng. That's now 1 point for both tribes. Next up for Feng, we have Fabian. For Shu, we have Alec. The round commences, and both guys step onto their barrel. They remain calm for some time, and after 3 minutes, it's at a standstill. Neither guy has moved. Suddenly though, Alec falls, meaning Fabian scores the second point for Feng. For round 4, we have Anna for Feng up against Betty for Shu. The round begins, and Anna immediately struggles to stay on. After 15 seconds, Anna falls off, meaning Betty has tied things up, 2-2. For round 5, we have Adam for Feng, up against Julian for Shu. The round begins, and Julian remains very stable while Adam moves around non-stop. It doesn't take that long as Adam soon falls off, meaning Julian scores the third point for Shu. One more, and they win. Feng needs 2 points to win. Up for round 6, we have Daniela again for Feng, and for Shu, Steph is up for her first time. The round then begins, and both women are in the zone, not moving as much. A minute passes, and both remain on their barrel, unfazed. Steph then tells Daniela that she has a bee on her neck, but Hannah tells Daniela not to listen to her. Both women remain stable for another few minutes, and then Daniela begins wobbling around out of nowhere. After 10 seconds, she falls, meaning Steph wins immunity and reward for Shu. They all celebrate, while Feng feels miserable. Everyone then stands on the mats, and Justin congratulates Shu on their second immunity win. He asks for someone to come grab the statue, so Betty grabs it, shouting out the tribe's name in celebration. Justin then tells Shu that they will choose to send someone right before Feng heads for tribal council, so they have the afternoon to decide who it will be. As for Feng, someone will be the third person voted out of Survivor China. He'll see them tonight. With that, both tribes make their way to camp, and in confessional, Fabian says that it's time for Queen Daniela to step off her throne to allow the true kings to be on top. The best part is, she won't see it coming. At Feng's camp, everyone arrives from the challenge, many feeling miserable after the loss. Daniela sighs and says it sucks they lost, but they have to move forward as per usual. In confessional, Daniela says it sucks to lose another challenge, but at least she's not in the minority going into tonight's vote. At least she hopes. Right now, Adam, Fabian, and Roland are the bottom 3, and tonight, she'd like to vote out Fabian after his lash out 2 nights ago. Once Fabian is gone, she doesn't have any true enemies in this game. At that point, she'll just stick to her alliance with David and Maria and let them decide what they want for their trio moving forward. Daniela, Maria, David, Adam, and Hannah have a group conversation away from camp, and Adam asks everyone if Kevin is the vote tonight. Maria says he is, and Daniela backs that. Adam then asks if there is a split vote plan in place, but Daniela says she'd rather not because it clearly pisses people off. Hannah smiles and says she definitely doesn't want to be a split vote again. In confessional, Maria says that herself, Daniela, and David can't really spill much in front of Adam and Hannah. They aren't in their true alliance. All they can say is they are voting out Kevin. It's basically to mask that they are voting based on challenge strength. In reality, herself, Daniela, and David can control what happens tonight, and preferably, Fabian is the target. If Fabian goes home, that's stripping a number from Adam and Roland, and it weakens them going forward. Adam later chats with Fabian and Shelby alone, telling them that it seems like people are voting for Kevin tonight. Shelby says she's fine with that, as long as it's not her. Fabian breathes out and asks if perhaps they should pull off a big move tonight. They have the option of blindsiding someone else since they now have Hannah in their voting group. Adam then asks Shelby what she thinks, and Shelby says she's indifferent. Fabian suggests they vote out Daniela. It would shake things up like crazy if she goes home. Plus, revenge tastes very sweet. In confessional, Fabian says he really wants Daniela gone tonight. She's the reason things are going crazy on this tribe. She's the reason Preston went home, who is someone he had interest in working with. She clearly doesn't like him, so there's no reason to keep her here. Plus, if he needs to, he'll gladly use his idol on Kevin to ensure Daniela goes home. He'd be willing to do that, just for her to go home. Shelby then tells Adam and Fabian that this plan has to be 100% foolproof. She doesn't want to look dumb like last tribal when she helped split the vote. Fabian says they'll lock it in right now. Adam quickly asks if they are sure about this, though. He doesn't know if it's worth the risk anymore because Kevin is such an easy vote right now. After that, they have 5 votes against Daniela. The only people who would continue working with Daniela are Maria, David, and Anna. Fabian says he's more confident in blindsiding Daniela right now. They might not have a chance later if Hannah decides to work with her. In confessional, Shelby says she has no idea what's going on right now. Fabian wants Daniela out, while Adam now wants Kevin gone. It's confusing as hell. These boys have no idea what they are doing. They think they are playing Survivor, but they are playing bumper cars. This is not the group she wants to align herself with. Later on, Shelby finds Maria and Daniela, letting them know that she's willing to vote with them tonight. She just had a chat with Adam and Fabian, and she's realizing they are not worthy as allies. She's basically willing to jump ship. Maria and Daniela are confused for a moment, and Maria then asks Shelby what she thinks about voting one of those boys out tonight. Shelby says she doesn't mind it at all. She feels like she can't work with them anymore. Not that she really tried working with them anyway. She was just automatically looped in with them. In confessional, Maria says that this is a great opportunity to make this vote a 6-4 vote against Fabian. If Shelby is fully on board to vote out Fabian, they have the numbers. However, if there's any whiff of Shelby not committing, the vote will have to remain on Kevin. Maria later catches up with Anna and David, informing them that Shelby just approached her and Daniela that she wants to vote with them. So she asked her if she'd be okay with Fabian gone, and she said yes. Anna then looks at David, asking him if he thinks they should just stick to the Fabian plan or not. David sighs and says he's really torn right now. In confessional, David says that he knows Daniela wants to keep Kevin around. However, she doesn't realize that this tribe is going to continue losing challenges if they get rid of their stronger members. It's not that Fabian is this strong guy, but he's obviously stronger than Kevin. Kevin is just nothing in these challenges. Anna then tells David and Maria that she's personally okay with either option. Though, she feels like keeping Kevin is smarter if he's their number. David sighs and says he's unsure again. Meanwhile, Adam and Roland chat with Hannah alone, and Adam asks Hannah how she feels about tonight's vote. Hannah says she is indifferent with what happens. If Kevin goes, that's a win for them either way. If Daniela goes, even better. Adam says that Fabian wants Daniela gone tonight, but maybe it's too soon. If they vote Kevin, there won't be chaos at camp later. Roland says he personally feels like Kevin should be the move tonight. It doesn't sprinkle any suspicion onto them, and then they can pull off their big move later. They'd have the votes because of Fabian and Shelby. In confessional, Roland says that he's of course keen with any move his alliance wants to make, but tonight should be a vote about tribe strength. Kevin doesn't provide anything for this tribe, and everyone knows that, including Daniela herself. It's best to unanimously vote out Kevin to ensure things go smoothly before the Daniela blindside. Hannah then tells the guys that she'll do whatever they want. Adam sighs and says he needs to chat with Fabian again before tribal. If Fabian is adamant that Daniela has to go, they'll pull the trigger. Roland shrugs and says they'll be in the majority either way. Hannah then says they have nothing to lose if they do Daniela tonight. They shouldn't be struggling this hard over a move they have full control over. Adam then asks Roland if they should just pull the trigger now, but Roland hesitates to answer. In confessional, Adam says that Daniela technically made the move against the Alliance last tribal, so there's every reason to vote her out tonight. Plus, she could be playing the guys right now. Maybe she's not voting out Kevin. In that case, they need to go to a tie and hope someone flips from the other side. Either way, tonight is going to be nail-biting. He has no idea what's going to happen. He can't be confident like last tribal. It ended poorly for him. It's now night 6, and Feng arrives to tribal council and sit in their seats. Justin welcomes them back to their second tribal council now. He then calls in the member from the Shu tribe to come in, and Steph walks in as the person chosen by her tribe. After she sits down, Justin turns to David first, asking him how tough it felt to lose another challenge today. David says it's crushing to lose any sort of challenge. He's a very competitive person, so of course it feels like a gut punch when they lose. Losing a boxing match is much worse, though. Justin laughs and then asks Fabian how today's loss affects someone like him, and Fabian says it's quite scary to be in his spot right now. Last tribal was crazy because half the tribe wasn't looped in on the plan. Adam then corrects him and says more than half the tribe. Fabian then laughs and says that's true. Justin then asks Adam if there's anyone in particular to point fingers at for last tribal's Blindside, and Adam says that all 5 people who voted Preston made a group decision, so there's no one he can single out as the reason for the Blindside. Justin turns to Anna, asking her if the 5 people who didn't vote Preston should be concerned tonight, and Anna laughs and says obviously not. Mathematically those 5 can group up against the 5 who voted Preston. However, this tribe is built differently. There's more cohesion than one may think. Justin then asks Maria if she agrees with that statement, and Maria nods. She says that it's impossible for a 5 to take control if there's 10 people on a tribe. At this point, the gameplay has evolved and people are thinking with open minds. Justin asks Kevin if he feels like he's in a good spot tonight, and Kevin says not at all. He knows that some people see him as a weak player, so they might feel encouraged to vote for him tonight. It happened last time. He was supposed to go home. Justin then asks him if something like this immunity could help him out tonight, and Kevin says it definitely would. Fabian then speaks up and says that Kevin doesn't need it as much as some others since he voted in the majority last time. Kevin then asks Fabian if he remembers how the vote went last time, and Fabian confidently says that the 5 people who voted Preston are practically safe tonight. Daniela immediately squints and looks at Maria, and then Fabian continues to rant how Kevin is playing victim tonight to get that immunity for himself. Kevin scoffs and says that's not even the full story. There are 4 people here tonight who he feels would vote for him tonight. Fabian then asks which 4, but Kevin says he'll only say his name and keep the other 3 hidden. Justin then turns to David, asking him that amidst this chaotic back and forth, where he truly stands in this vote, and David says he's just sticking to the people who he trusts the most. His vote will reflect theirs. Justin asks Roland the same question, and Roland says his answer the same way. It's bad gameplay to vote out your own allies. So, why not just stick by them? Justin then asks Daniela if this vote is going to be simple, and Daniela says yes. It's imperative for this tribe to be strong both physically and mentally. They can't move forward if they are a broken tribe. Justin then wraps up the discussion, asking Steph if she has someone in mind to save tonight. Steph then takes a moment to think and then says she does. Justin asks Steph to name who she is saving tonight, and Steph says she is saving Hannah. Hannah smiles and thanks her, and Justin confirms that nobody can vote for Hannah tonight. She's now immune. Everyone else is fair game. With that, everyone prepares for the vote.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote. Kevin. Kevin. That's 2 votes, Kevin. Fabian. 2 votes, Kevin, 1 vote, Fabian. Fabian. We're tied. 2 votes, Kevin, 2 votes, Fabian. Kevin. 3 votes, Kevin. Kevin. 4 votes, Kevin, 2 votes, Fabian. Fabian. That's 3 votes, Fabian. Fabian. We're tied again. 4 votes, Fabian, 4 votes, Kevin. Fabian. That's 5 votes, Fabian, 4 votes, Kevin, 1 vote left. Third person voted out of Survivor China. Fabian.
Adam immediately shakes his head and Hannah looks around, squinting her eyes. Fabian sighs out loud and gets up, stating out loud that he's very confused by Daniela's gameplay so far. Daniela stares forward and Fabian puts his torch down next to Justin. Justin snuffs his torch, so Fabian then heads out without another word. Justin then turns to the rest and tells them to head back to camp, and he also tells Steph she may also head back to camp. Next time on Survivor China. After being lied to a second time, Adam and Roland feel hopeless on Feng, especially after ally Shelby flipped. Will they be able to dig themselves out of the hole they are in and flip things around for once? On Shu, Julian and Jeannie struggle to figure out who to side with as Sarah is in their trio but is firmly working with Alec. Will Ebony, Annalise, and Rachel look at another person they could flip over? Find all of this out on the next episode of Survivor China. Fabian's final thoughts. Fabian feels destroyed right now because he got voted out with an idol in his pocket. He was literally on the bottom and somehow did not think he would need to use his idol. He truly thought Daniela, David, and Maria were voting Kevin. Not to mention, someone flipped on him because only 4 votes were put on Kevin. It really sucks to go out this way, especially because he had so much more fight in him. It is what it is. He hopes Adam wins this season because he's the only person here who isn't scared to play the game.